GameCube.
What is it with Nintendo constantly messing up the Super Mario Galaxy representation for Mario's 40th anniversary? First, it was charging $70 for basic ports of both games, then it was releasing the movie at the quality that it is, and now we've got this confusing mess. They had the easiest home run in the world and still managed to strike out. So what did they mess up on this time? So out of nowhere, Nintendo decided to drop the soundtracks for Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and the soundtrack for the Super Mario Galaxy movie onto Spotify. And you might think to yourself, where's the problem there? It's Nintendo putting out their music on one of the most popular places that people get their music. And in a vacuum, yeah, that is really cool. I love the fact that amazing music is being made more readily available to a much wider audience of people. And they even make the playback bar on the app for Spotify Premium members a little Luma from the games. That's adorable. It's basically the easiest success story you could possibly have. And yet, somehow, they managed to screw it up. So Spotify put out a press release going into a little bit of detail about their partnership with Nintendo to commemorate the 40th anniversary, as they announced that all those soundtracks would be hitting the platforms, and they also state how there are going to be billboards across New York City, Los Angeles, and Tokyo Shibuya Crossing to promote these soundtrack releases. And while they did not specify this in their press release, if you look closely at the image on the top of the article, it says that the playlist for the Galaxy games in particular would be available for a limited time. Close enough! Welcome back, Super Mario 3D All-Stars! I swear, it feels like every time I think Nintendo has learned their lesson, they still manage to find a new way to surprise me. Because unless this was just a misprint, which I highly doubt, it seems like the Galaxy soundtracks are only going to be available for a short period of time. They never specified how long they'd be available. For all we know, they could give us a transparent date for when they'll disappear, or they might just take them off a month later out of nowhere with no warning. So not only is it completely unacceptable how this was never specified in the press release at all, but it is ridiculous how Nintendo is still pulling this fear of missing out nonsense in the first place. They did this very loudly and proudly during Mario's 35th anniversary, where they made Super Mario 3D All-Stars a collection containing Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, only available for a 6-month period of time. Physical copies would stop being printed and the eShop versions would be yanked from the store. And that was the same case with Super Mario Bros. 35, an online battle royale game that they only made available to play throughout that period. And they did it with Fire Emblem NES as well for some reason. And the fact that they are doing it again here just baffles me. They think that by doing these limited time things, it really heightens the impact of these anniversaries and just gets people excited to live in the moment and to celebrate Mario to the absolute fullest. But what this is actually about is FOMO. No other reason. It's about making people want to buy into whatever product they're selling throughout that period, even if they don't want it, because they might never get that chance again. And this type of practice helps absolutely no one. It doesn't help Nintendo because they would still be making tons of money if they did just swallow their pride and just make all this stuff available indefinitely. And it doesn't help the consumers because they're preconditioned in their minds to buy into these products now because of that lack of accessibility in the future, and ends up making many of those people feel guilt-tripped into buying a product that they might not want because of that scarcity. And it worked on me in the case of 3D All-Stars. The footage you are seeing, I captured off of my copy of 3D All-Stars. Plot twist, I was the Nintendo adult the entire time! And they're barely putting any effort into making this music accessible in the first place beyond the limited time deal. I keep mentioning Spotify and only Spotify because yeah, that is the only platform that they are releasing these soundtracks on. Now granted, if it has to be on just the one service, yeah, I'm not gonna blame them for choosing Spotify. Even putting my own personal feelings on Spotify and their business practices aside, it is easily the most popular platform for people to listen to music on, with 250 million users on it. But there are so many other platforms out there that a lot of people in the millions are still listening to music on, like Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon Music. I personally use Tidal, and almost every major artist is putting out their music on all of these platforms and then some. So the fact that they are only choosing Spotify just feels so infinitely behind on the times. And on top of that, they didn't even bother including every song from the games either. The official playlist only has 129 songs available. Meanwhile, in comparison to the soundtracks that I have downloaded onto my computer, those contain a total of 151 songs. So there are over 20 songs missing across both of these soundtracks, like Slimy Spring Galaxy, for example. That's not included at all. And so, in my mind, if you're gonna put in the absolute bare minimum of effort into this, I'd honest to God rather you just don't even bother putting the soundtracks up on streaming at all. If you're gonna make such a huge leap to go out of your own ecosystem and put your music on a much bigger, more mainstream platform, they could have and should have gone 100% all the way. Add in every song from both games. Keep them up permanently, add more Mario soundtracks over time. But this isn't about that. Nintendo is not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing this purely for marketing purposes. They want to remind people that Galaxy exists so that they will go out and buy the Switch ports of both games, which I mean, they're both great games. Wow, what a hot take. Go out and buy tickets to see the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which we already know how I feel about that. Or convince them, if they haven't already, to buy a Nintendo Switch online subscription so that they can keep listening to these soundtracks on Nintendo Music. And not to say that Nintendo Music is a bad app in a vacuum. It works for what it's trying to do. And there are some benefits to that platform that other streaming services don't do. I like how you can sort music by characters in specific games. I like how you can hide games you haven't played for spoiler reasons. And I like how you can extend songs up to an hour so that they don't feel weird when they're looping. But how many people are actively gonna buy Nintendo Switch Online just for Nintendo Music? Last time I checked, the app has only a little over 1 million downloads, but more general music streaming services get so many more members. Like I said, Spotify has around 750 million. Apple Music has around 100 million. YouTube Music has around 100 million. You have a huge pool of people to reach out to by putting your music on those platforms. And most video game companies understand that. Lots of Sega soundtracks, lots of Square Enix soundtracks, lots of Capcom soundtracks are all readily available on all these different services. Nintendo has always been the outlier in this regard though. Most of the time, they want you to interact with their products in their way, not your own, which is why they try their best to keep their information and their community locked within their own ecosystem. We're honestly lucky they even allowed sharing photos and videos of Switch software onto Twitter and Facebook for as long as they did. We're honestly lucky they dropped the Nintendo Creators Program many years ago, where they basically stole the ad revenue off of people making videos about Nintendo games even if they were completely fair use. But control and curation has always been part of their strategy, and that is why I think they're doing the bare minimum with these soundtrack releases. And at that point, I'd rather they just not even bother pretending to care and just leave all their music on Nintendo Music. But yeah, overall, this does absolutely nothing to heighten the impact of the 40th anniversary for me. This just seems like Nintendo going, you know what would be funny? So overall, I would easily forgive all of this if Nintendo weren't cowards and put the Mario's Picross soundtrack on Spotify instead. The public yearns for Bing Bing Wahoo architecting. God bless and have a good one. Bye-bye!